there isn't a industry or type of person that is 100% successful or 100% not successful.
Like grit is the number one thing that you should install in your kids and your culture and all of that, because everyone's going to have their hard times. Everyone's going to go through their obstacles, and what's going to get you on the other side of that and get through them is grit.
I'm never overly excited about the question, like, what should my company name be? This doesn't matter. Like, it does not matter. Take your last name, say land. Those simple, silly things that don't make you money. What makes you money? Sending mail, getting deals, talking to sellers.
Ryan Pineda, we had on the podcast. Ryan Pineda said he loves real estate because it doesn't take brains. It takes grit.
A lot of entrepreneurs say they're stupid. Like, it's not like an uncommon thing. Like,
the good ones have a good vision, though.
100%.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today's topic, we're discussing who is land flipping for. We're going to talk about personality. We're going to talk about skills and background that's needed for this, and if any at all. Welcome back to the show, Ron.
Yeah, happy to be here. Excited for this topic. I think it'll be short and sweet. I think like there are specific people that do really, really well in this business. There are specific types of people, specific situations that might not do as well. So excited to get to this.
Absolutely. And I think the first thing I want to talk about and dive into is like personality types, because there are so many people that come from different backgrounds in general with skills and things. But what about personality? Like, what do you see? There's introverted people, there's extroverted people, there's people good in sales, bad in sales. Like, what kind of outgoing people? What kind of people do you think do well? And do you think that's even something to look into if you're considering that of who does well here?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily like introvert versus extrovert. Like, I don't really buy into that stuff in terms of success with entrepreneurship. I just don't think it matters that much. I'm naturally an introvert. There's some things like sales can be something that's tough for me, but when you got to do it, you got to do it. Determination, I think, is one of the bigger things, like just grit a little bit. Entrepreneurship as a whole, you need grit, you need determination, you need resiliency, because there's so many, like you hear all the success stories of people who have come through this show, who have come sat by us, talked to us. They all have very similar stories. There is a lot of tough times in this stuff. It's rarely, if ever, honestly, I can't think of any situations where it's like, yeah, the first month I was making $50,000 a month. It was all good. Like, it's not like that. That's not the story.
Yeah, there's always obstacles that come up that you have to overcome, which leads Ron to believing grit's one of the highest. That's a trait, essentially. That's a trait, and I think grit in general, and Jesse Itzler says that all the time too. He's like, grit is the number one thing that you should install in your kids and your culture and all of that, because everyone's going to have their hard times. Everyone's going to go through their obstacles, and what's going to get you on the other side of that and get through them is grit, is what you're saying.
100%. Patience, all that stuff, like the ability. I think learning is a huge thing, is like where people... There's a mindset where some people, like, they learn something and like they don't want to expand anymore on what it is. There's other people who come in and they want to just continue to learn, continue to grow. And that's one of our core values in our company is growth. I think that's huge.
Yeah, and I read a book, I'm going blank on the name, about, and let me know in the comments what book this is, about traits versus skills. Traits will get you'll get through those obstacles, you'll get those skills by having the traits to continue to learn, to get through the hard times, just having that growth mindset. The results come after that. If you have those traits, everything else is going to work out in the end.
So traits can kind of get you a point, and then skills is like how you scale.
Well, traits is how you get the skills needed, essentially. Okay. It's what gets you through. It's what gets you through Navy SEALs training, all the grit that gets you through, and you learn the skills as you go as well. It's the traits, like Kobe Bryant, for example. He had the trait of all the hardworking and the grit, and
Makes sense.
What traits would you describe him having?
Exactly, hardworking, grit, kind of what we're talking about. Honestly, like his mentality.
He was very skilled too. Yeah. But that helped him get the skills because he had that.
His work ethic, all that stuff.
Yeah, and his calm and pressure, all that. So it's the traits that ultimately get you there, and that's what I think is more needed than skills. But I do want to talk about skills a little bit, because there's salespeople, there's engineers, there's all kinds of people with skills coming in. And skills are important, but those traits that you possess are more important, I think, than the actual skills. But do you think there's a common theme of what we see successful people having in terms of actual skills? Take traits away from it.
Yeah. I mean, sales is one that I think you have an upper leg on competition. I don't think being a salesperson is going to make you succeed in this business. But yeah, sales is probably the number one that I can think of. Operations, I don't really care about, honestly, all that stuff. But being able to get on the phone, talk to people, close deals that some people wouldn't close, I think gives you a leg up.
And actual sales, not someone who just says they're good at sales, someone who's actually calling and being aggressive on the phones. And that's what it all comes down to, is just taking deals that maybe wouldn't have happened, because there's a certain percentage of people that are going to sell you their land no matter what.
A salespeople get deals that C salespeople wouldn't get.
Correct.
That's like at the end of the day, like, and that could be that first deal that an A salesperson is getting their first deal in the first month, where a C salesperson is taking 4 months, or maybe they're quitting, they're not making it happen. Like, there's different situations. An A salesperson gets deals that a C salesperson couldn't get.
And that comes back to the traits. If you have a trait of the growth-minded individual, and you're always learning, and you have the grit to go through the obstacles, eventually you'll be able to take your D- sales skills or your D sales skills and become a B+. And that's what I'm talking about with the traits more so, I think.
That makes sense. I mean, 100%. If you don't have the trait of growth or the trait of determination, your skills are never going to get to, because there's always a hard part in anything you're learning, is skiing or skateboarding or whatever it is. Like, you suck at something when you start anything, really. So, and then those traits are going to help you grow.
Exactly. What about background in general? Like, what's someone's background? Do you think, because ultimately we want to, like, in this podcast, the goal is to, if someone's on the verge of, starting their land flipping career, or, recommending it to someone or whatever it is, we want to direct them in what kind of person this works for. So I want to talk like background. Who's actually doing this?
I think wholesalers are probably like number one on my list. If the successful wholesalers, there's people who come to land who were wholesaling and failed or struggled at wholesaling. That does not mean they're going to come into land and just do well. But there are people who are in wholesaling that like see an opportunity in land. Those people are successful 9 out of 10 times, 10 out of 10 times. Going into other things, like you said, sales stuff, I think does really well. But the one consistent that comes to my mind is that is very, very successful is people who were doing wholesaling deals with houses.
Does someone, and that's what we see the most successful people, but obviously that's not needed, not necessary to join in. So someone who just heard you say that might say, oh, I don't have a real estate background at all. Am I going to struggle with this? Can you come in with no experience?
Yeah. I mean, I was a teacher. I was a high school teacher. We have other teachers in here. We have so many different, I don't know everyone's occupation or where they came from. Shelby, who quit her job, was working for, where's she working? Reddit or something?
No. It was a marketing role, I believe.
There's just so many. Yeah, marketing.
Pinterest.
Yeah, I think you're right about Pinterest. One thing, like, I don't know what your thought. Maybe it's more of a trait, but like people who are in like operations thing, I'm not overly excited about them coming in, to be 100% honest. And it's not necessarily. It's kind of the skill, the trait that a lot of operations people have, like the overthinking sometimes, the over systematizing.
Yes.
Like operations and startup grind entrepreneurship is kind of different. If you, it's a mindset thing. If you're coming
with the right training and understanding, that's what, like, during our coaching, and I was talking to Landon yesterday. He's one of our coaches, and get through the stuff that doesn't matter with these people. Like, okay, they need their LOC, they need their CRM. Like, that doesn't matter at first. Yes, get it in place. Whatever, take an hour, 2 hours to get it set up, but the milestones are catered towards getting them a deal. And each milestone is a step closer to getting them a deal. So we really have to focus on those milestones and avoid all the outside noise. And if you had proper training for that operations person, it's like, hey, I know you want to build out this robust CRM, but you don't even have marketing, or leads coming in. There's nothing to put in there. And let's build that out on the side while we're doing this. And that's going to help you get from $3 million to $20 million. Like that. The person who can't do that is going to struggle more at the extreme growth phase, I think, the scaling phase. But the operation person that you're talking about is going to struggle at the startup phase, where you just have to ignore a lot of the fluff and the outside noise and stop over analyzing all your data sources and all this difference. Like, just send the marketing, get the leads, be aggressive, and get some deals, and then scale. Once you get to that scaling phase, implement a lot of those.
Yeah, I'm never overly excited about the question, like, what should my company name be? Or like, there are people who are taking a week to come up with their company name. And sometimes it's just like putting them over the edge, like pushing them through it. Like, this doesn't matter. Like, it does not matter. Take your last name, say land, Apke land, Apke whatever. Just take that's all you need to do. Like, at the end of the day, it's not an important thing. Your URL, your website, none of that matters. You need a website for credibility, or a Facebook page, which is what we talk about. But just being able to get through those simple, silly things that don't make you money. What makes you money? Sending mail, getting deals, talking to sellers.
So what you're saying, and you were saying just the operation person because they overthink.
Yeah, I think that's a trait of people that kind of struggle sometimes.
But they can, I think when they are ready to scale and get through that startup phase and get deals, that's a really good trait for actually scaling the business.
Yeah, 100%.
In general, hiring, good systems for your hires, things like that, and outsourcing. That can really come in handy. But we're talking about now like the initial growth phase of just getting a business from $0 to $1 million of profit, essentially.
And I think me and you are kind of like the opposite. And right now we're working on that second phase, like which might be more of the operation phase, where we're like putting systems in places. Like how do you get from 5 million to 10 million in businesses? Like that's a hard phase where the startup, like getting to a business to $1 million, like is not.
You don't need much operation.
It's not that difficult. It's not $0 to $2 million, something like that even.
Yeah, and it's a combination of, and this isn't what the topic's about, but it's a combination of having those good operations and then having the mission and the vision and the culture and the core values for a team to really buy in and start scaling. And I think that's where operation does the systems and everything, and then you need that person to kind of keep the culture in place and the growth, and everyone knows where they're going essentially, and that both of those sides combined is what gets you to where you need to go.
100%. And kind of close it off, like there isn't a industry or a type of person that is 100% successful or 100% not successful. Like anyone really can get into this. It's as we've talked about, a huge opportunity business. But
what about credit score?
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, no. People ask, how much credit. So you don't need credit. You don't need a real estate portfolio. You don't need any specific job. You need grit, like Ron said, and that's all I'm gonna say to close this out. Like if you have the determination to go from $0 to $1 million of profit, it's not about the scales. Ryan Pineda, we had on the podcast, Ryan Pineda said he loves real estate because it doesn't take brains, it takes grit. He said hard work.
A lot of entrepreneurs say they're stupid. Like it's not like an uncommon thing. Like
the good ones have a good vision though.
100%, for sure. They understand stuff. They don't like understand failing.
You can get to $1 million, $2 million profit with very little brains, I think. If you just have that grit in this business.
Yeah, a lot of businesses, honestly.
Yeah, but like the real estate in general, and that's what his point was, like, because he was talking about scaling social media and his social media agency and all those other, and he's like, there's just so much more higher level things you have to think about. Real estate, you need to obviously scale your operations, but you need to send out more marketing, be very aggressive on the phones. Like you can get the $1 to $3 million profit fairly easily doing that stuff. So avoid or ignore all the other fluff of what background you need. Like if you guys are willing to put in the work and have that grit and want to get to where you're going to go and not going to stop no matter what, that's what this is for. It doesn't matter anything else.
Absolutely. Other than that, guys, hit the subscribe button right below. Like this video. Leave us a comment if you have other things you want us to talk about. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please leave us a review. It really helps. Share it with a friend. Other than that, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining, guys. As always, thank you for joining. Please do us a huge favor and like and subscribe our YouTube channel and share this with a friend. It really means the world to Ron and I, but more importantly, it could help change the life of someone else. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next episode.